Welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Divides podcast. So, my fellow Divide Bridgers, I have a really cool episode for you guys today. We have Jeremy Sather today. He represents the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yes, sir.
We met him, let's see, it's been a while now. I've known of you and what you do for a while. We met through BNI again.
Yeah.
I've talked about BNI on here so many times I've lost count. But it's kind of taken a little bit to actually connect.
Yeah.
And I'm was super happy when we finally did, and being able to find out what you do, why you do it, all of the things that FCA is that
Yep,
you
yep.
guys call it?
Yep.
Everything that they do and what they hope to accomplish. The scope is of the organization is huge. It's international or national?
Yeah, we're worldwide right now.
That
Yeah,
is
so,
incredible. No, I love hearing that, especially because of what you guys do and what you're trying to accomplish is definitely something that the world needs. And it's the stories like yours that we really want to highlight, because we're all about bringing people together, bridging divides, right? Helping people bridge those divides in their own lives, which is something that you help the athletes with,
yeah.
but then also bringing the world together and bridging those divides that are between peoples, which it is so easy to find a group of people arguing, or two groups of people arguing nowadays. I feel like that's the go-to is to argue and fight. And I think that what you're doing is beautiful for that. So super excited to bring you guys Jeremy today. So let's dive into it, man. So Fellowship of Christian Athletes, what is the mission of what you guys are trying to do?
The vision is to see the world transformed by Jesus Christ through the influence of coaches and athletes. So that's a wide range. Obviously it's a faith-based organization.
Yeah.
And then mission-wise, we want to see every coach and athlete in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and His church. So we have a wide number of churches that we partner with, a wide number of individuals that we partner with. And currently in the East Valley, which is my area as the East Valley director, we're serving about 1,600 coaches and athletes throughout any given month. And that is obviously a big part of that is faith-based, where we'll go in with a group of athletes from every sport, which we call a multi-sport huddle. And we'll bring in some food, to try to bring some people in. Some people come in for a slice of pizza or a donut and end up hearing about something that might change your life. We try to have fun with them, try to play a game of some sort. That might be a reason somebody comes in. But ultimately is just to serve coaches and athletes that to remind them what their purpose is bigger than just the sport.
Yeah.
Which I think can get goofed up really quickly in sports, and
100%.
And so you just remind them what coaches, what they do really matters, because I think it's harder to be a coach now than it ever has been.
Yeah. Why's that?
Well, I don't ever remember hearing of a high school coach being released when unless for disciplinarian reasons. I think there's a higher pressure to win. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like I'm competitive, in everything I want to do. I want to do it the best of my ability.
You can, yeah, of course.
But I think that's tougher. I think sometimes that can be a tough deal for coaches. I think there's parents, I think, are paying more than they've ever paid. So there's a pressure maybe that their son or daughter can get the scholarship piece, which makes them maybe less patient with the coach.
I see. So
I think that's a few of them, and with what's happened in the college landscape, money's gotten closer. So I think the pressure to get student athletes there is tougher, and I think a lot of coaches go into it for the right reasons, and just trying to remind them, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but the average parents with their kids for 30, 35 minutes a night, and the coaches are with them for 2 or 3 hours. Right. So the coach is going to make an impact one way or the other. So our goal is just to cheer them on and encourage them when the season gets heavy and if things aren't going great, to remind them, hey, what you do really matters. You're going to make a difference in this kid's life. And then if we can help build that coach in his own walk with Christ, and that helps carry into his coaching, that's awesome.
That's beautiful. Because you used to be a coach, correct? Like that's what your full-time job was before
Yep,
this?
yep. So I was a college coach, I think, for 7 years. I think between all levels of football, from 3 Pop Warner to 7 college and whatever's left over, I think I've had 25 seasons. So I still get to coach at Benjamin Franklin and love being over there. Some great
so
kids.
You're still involved
Yep.
with the
So
coaching.
still get to do that and then full time run around. And not only football coaches, but every kind of coach, every kind of athlete, and even a lot of times there's people in our huddles that aren't what you would call a regular prime sport athlete, something different in a different event or different arena than what you would normally think. And man, we want kids in there. Our mission is directed towards those athletes because they're a lot of times the more influential students on campus a lot of times.
Yeah.
But man, we want everybody to come in there and get a chance to hear,
Of course.
and to change your life and to grow in that relationship. Get connected. A lot of times we'll have pastors that will volunteer with us and jump in with us. So, trying to have them have the opportunity to get connected to a church. And I think there's if you're not in that, it's tough to just walk in. And I think when we have a pastor in there, they already know somebody when they go on Sunday or whatever day
nice.
they head over. So I think that's been a great thing for us at a bunch of the schools. So
no, that's beautiful. I love that. And so this is not necessarily a faith-based
for sure
podcast, but it's definitely not something that I've ever shied away from, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's God and Jesus Christ are a central part in my life and how I do things, right?
Yeah.
I saw a bumper sticker of all things. It said it's not a religion, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that when it becomes just a religion, then you get all that crap that people have been disillusioned with, right? Where you look throughout history and you're like, there's some dark stuff that's gone on. But when it's the relationship, when that is what is focused on, it becomes transformative to the individual, to communities, to families. Like, oh my gosh,
Well, I think
is the focus.
And that's our hope within the school. Even is if you have some people that are in a relationship with Jesus, that's going to make a difference at the school.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
The feel of it all.
Really, and I think a lot of times, whatever that school's primary, sport or athletes or, and sometimes that's music and whatever the students are involved in, if that group that's involved in everything is doing well, it kind of pours into the others. And that's kind of the idea of when the FCA was started back in the 60s, that athletes have a chance to make an impact. So let's make that. So, and we do other activities. We do character studies. That way, if a coach wants it, a lot of times a coach, I think, has great intentions to do that, but there's a billion things to do.
Right.
I think a lot of times the coach has great intentions for that, but the season starts and everything starts piling on. And the cool thing is we come in, we're self-funded missionaries, so we can come into a coach for free. Yeah. And when I was a head football coach, nothing came in for free. So to have someone come partner, which is kind of how I got started, is with someone that came partner with me as a coach. And we did that for years. And man, when the opportunity came to serve through FCA 3.5 years ago, I got a chance to jump in there. So we can go in and do the character piece and have it, have the biblical piece out so that we can have the whole team in there.
Yeah.
And then we can do a chapel separate, which is kind of some of the things that we offer.
No, I love that. So describe what a chapel is, for example.
For sure.
So you do the huddle. That's one of the things that you do, but you can also do a chapel. Like, what is it? Go into that.
So we have multi-sport huddle where we're bringing athletes and coaches in from
all the sports.
From all the sports. Yeah. We'll do coaches Bible studies where we'll sit with just the coaches and try to get a purpose deeper than just the wins, because that's a tough deal. So
because it's like, think about it. It's like if you're winning just to win, then it's like awesome. It's like pursuing money just for money's sake. Yeah. But it's like, what is the purpose behind what you're doing?
For
like,
sure.
What are you trying to teach? What are you trying to learn? How are you trying to grow? I think is so much more. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and just to remind coaches and help young coaches grow.
It starts at the top,
and kind
too.
of, yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So if we're helping the young coaches when they get in. Now that I've been doing it for 25 years, and we have a range of ages in our organization. So there's we can have a chance to connect with those coaches, but just to remind them, hey, you're making that impact one way or the other, coach. And man, if you can, if it's something deeper than the wins, you got a chance to be in it for a long time,
Oh, I love
and
that.
impact athletes for a long time, and ultimately as a Christian organization, hopefully impact them for Jesus is
Yeah.
our but even for the coaches that are just looking for character piece, we're there to help them as well. So
It's interesting too, because it's in a lot of ways I view what I'm doing as a ministry. I've said
Sure.
that kind of behind the scenes, and to people, just because the principles that I'm teaching through Bridging Divides are not new per se.
yeah,
I feel like a principle, like a true principle, is eternal. Like there's it
yeah,
goes on forever, and it has lasted forever. There's no beginning or end or amount. There's no amount of debating that will change that
yeah,
principle, right? And
yeah,
so whether you're putting the label on it of Jesus Christ, where it comes from, where I believe it comes from, it will still impact people for good, because that's ultimately what the principles that he taught are for.
yeah,
It's something I've talked to my kids about. It's like, look, the way that we live, that the commandments, quote unquote, the tenets by which we live our lives are not just a set of rules that he's sitting up there going, well, you didn't follow that one,
yeah,
mark that one, mark that one. He is saying, if you want to be truly, deeply the happiest that you can possibly be, this is how you should live.
yeah,
It's not about exclusion. It's not about about just punishment.
yeah.
Through whatever shame. Oh
Well, I
my
think
gosh!
that's
And how many times do we shame ourselves for tripping up as
Yeah.
we go along?
Well, I
that
think
just
that's
doesn't.
where you talked about with the bumper sticker, which is phenomenal. Religion is something that's earned in that piece. Um, we believe in biblical, where Jesus died for us and we don't deserve it. So, but trying to get that piece. Our verse this year is John 3:30, which I won't get too deep because it's not. But I think it's a great thing when you start focusing completely on you. It starts to be completely about you.
Yeah.
And John 3:30 says, "I decrease and God increases." That I must decrease and God must increase for me to make that impact. For my marriage to be great, for me to be a dad. If it continues to grow about me, if this becomes about you, if whatever your job is about you, I think your chance to make an impact, whatever your why is tough. But for us, man, in our faith, that I love that verse, because a lot of guys, and maybe there's some ladies that struggle with it, but guys, I think, can trip and fall pretty easy on getting focused on themselves. So it was a huge. I love that verse. I love our purpose of trying to make a greater impact this year. In fact, we're about to release our next topic. Each year we bring out a topic that we use worldwide and go for the whole calendar year. So we're just about to release that actually in a couple minutes here. So
Cool.
Super excited to see what that is. But this year I thought was awesome for us to focus on a greater impact, growing your faith and greater than what it is this year, and growing that relationship. Not trying to earn it, because you're not going to. That's the religion piece. If you're earning it, if you're trying to do it, people are leaving that, because it becomes that
dogmatic.
Yeah.
This, it's more about the letter of the law, so to speak, than the spirit of the law. We hear about that, and I think that's just absolutely fantastic. It's like I can't remember where it is exactly in the Bible, but where Christ is talking about how those that do their works to be seen of men have already received the reward.
Yeah.
That's where it stops.
Yeah.
That's why, like I was saying, if you're pursuing money just for money, that's where it stops.
Yeah.
If you're trying to earn prestige because you want to look big and bad and important, that's where it stops. And if that's what you're going for, okay, congratulations. But there's so much more to life than just the things.
Yeah.
It's the purpose, it's the soul of what you're trying to do that really brings the fulfillment and the impact, the difference that is made in the lives that you touch. You know, and one of the core principles of bridging divides, the bridge strategy, I call it, the fourth building block is complete their bridge. You know, so bridges are built from two sides, right? We all need somebody, a coach, a teammate. In sales, you need a customer.
Yep.
You know, you need a coach and team members. But instead of looking for somebody to complete your bridge, give you what you need, look for other people where you can complete their bridge. Give them what they need.
I think that's what coaching is. You know, the guys that are doing the men and women that are coaching the right way, they are going out there to help those kids reach their purpose. You know, to love the heck out of them, and I think that's where the bridge is. That's how the connection started. I mean, that's Jesus' commandment: love God, love people, and I think that's your number one way you can show your relationship, show that you're a Christian. And I think that's what we try to do when we go out. That's what we try to get coaches. You know, again, going back to that's what most people are in it for, is to help kids. And I think when I look at the trophies in my career, it's not the physical trophy for the wins and that kind of stuff. It's that kid from that stop. It's those 3 kids. It's those 5 kids that have gone from one spot to another, whether that's in their character. Man, when they go from not figuring out their faith to figuring out how to follow Jesus, that to me is the ultimate. But man, I love when I get an athlete that goes from not figuring out to figuring out. I love now. I used to be the youngest head coach in the state. Now I'm like I was the oldest guy on our staff. Somehow that happened really quickly. But
it's like, dang it! When you get to that point,
that was
like,
a quick switch. But I love just helping young coaches help. You know, man. It's got to be more than X's and O's, and you know what's your purpose of being out here? Yeah. And if the answer isn't the kids, you know, to help that athlete, to help that young man, to help that young lady, you know, I think that's got to be your number one if in coaching.
And I would imagine that spreads to the entire team, because if that's, again, I was saying, it starts at the top, right? So unless the coach is implementing that, then the team is, I mean, they're going to be all over the place. Self-serving, it's all about me looking good, that kind of a thing. But I would imagine that once that is coming from the top, and then the team members start to lift each other up to then focus on how can I help my teammate, how can I help them grow, how can I help encourage them, then I mean you look at a cohesive team, you know, you compare raw talent. If you have a bunch of single people on a team that have amazing raw talent, but they're all in it for themselves, versus a team that might not have as much raw talent, but they are tenacious and they are persistent and they work together. I mean, how have you seen that? I guess you would know it more than I would. People that know me are like, why is he talking about sports? So I'm not like a huge sports guy. But like what I love the principles that are taught for that reason. But how have you seen that, where maybe the less talented team versus the more talented team that works all separate? Like how is that?
Well, I think it's trying to figure out how to build leaders. You know, when you start with that, you know, we talk about that. I talk about a team back from 2015 where we had 18 seniors on our college team, and we never did any discipline because those guys, you know, from our head coach, John Auer, like you said, from the top down, I don't think anybody did it better than John Auer, who was a Coach of the Year candidate, you know, in 2010. But just a phenomenal leader, and that poured down to our seniors. And man, when that group, we had that many seniors, that was a blast coaching. We just got the coach, and those guys took care of it, and they did it in the right way. And I think that's tough. You know, I think that's a really tough principle. Is if you're doing something wrong and I know about it, how do I go about helping you out? You know, I got to have the relationship first, like you've talked about, but I want to come alongside you and be like, hey man, that's not what you're about, right? Like let's do this thing right. And that's awesome. You know, if we have that shared faith piece, it's like, you know, that's not right. So, but that's a tough thing to do. Yeah. It's not fun. It's not fun part of coaching. In the director job, it's not a fun job to come alongside someone that's not doing it right and be like, hey. To hold someone accountable, it takes something, and trying to build that with your teams, whether in ministry or whether in coaching or even in your family. You know, we've been married for 20 years, and and just for the two of us to walk alongside, that's been something that's never fun when it's not, when it's, the fun part's fun, but holding each other accountable, whether it's in any one of those jobs, I think is huge. And it goes back to, like you said, is bridging that is, am I coming to you to try to hold you accountable because I want to look better than you? Or am I doing that because I actually care about
like
you?
A power play.
I hope that's what we've showed our athletes over the years. I hope as we talk to coaches from around the valley, I think we're roughly in 35 schools in the East Valley here. Hopefully as we talk with a coach, if we have the tough conversation, it's about loving the heck out of that coach.
Yeah.
So I think teaching our athletes that, teaching our students that we work with is huge for that piece.
Yeah. One of my, what that reminds me of is one of my favorite quotes by he's actually the president of the LDS Church, Russell M. Nelson. He said that true love, unconditional love, does not allow self-destructive behavior. So like if you truly love somebody and you see them doing something that is going to harm them in the future, then you can't not say something.
Yeah.
And I think that if they understand, if the relationship has been built to the point where they understand that you do truly love them, then it's a lot easier for you to then approach them and be like, hey, this is out of love.
Yeah.
And you know that I love you. This is what we need to work on.
Yeah.
I think is just to your point,
yeah.
is so important. And then if you can be doing that as a team, I've got 6 kids, if we can do that as a family, there have been several times where my kids were like, hey Dad, I didn't really like it when you did that, or when you said this, or when you yelled at me, and I remember one time I was talking to my oldest, he's maybe 6 at the time. I'd yelled at him, which, is more normal of an occurrence than I'd like, but I went up to him afterwards and I was just saying, hey buddy, I'm really sorry that I yelled at you, and I just want to say sorry. And he goes, well, it's just something you got to work on. And I was like, yes it is. A question that I had, and this is one that I've thought about a lot, because I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe in having him be the central part of my life. But for our viewers that are not, there's never any sort of like, well, you don't believe what I do, so you're not as good of a person as I am, or that sort of a thing. I never want to come across that way, but by also not diminishing my own relationship with Jesus Christ and that sort of a thing. So I'm very much about finding the unity, right? The common ground. That's just kind of one of the things that I like to do, and I think that Jesus professed that we should do. He said, "Come and see," right? Yep. He never excluded anybody. Yeah. Whether it was the tax collector or the people that persecuted him, the Pharisees. You see all of the centurions. Oh my gosh! I mean, all these people that were literally at war with, occupying their country. He says, "Yeah, come listen, and then see for yourself." Right. But the point I'm trying to make through all of that, short story long, is how have you been able to kind of bring people of maybe different faiths or different maybe sects of Christianity? I profess myself to be a Christian. I follow Jesus Christ, but I'm LDS, right? Whether you're evangelical or Protestant or Lutheran or whatever, how have you been able to, or whether you're not even a Christian at all, how have you been able to kind of say this is what we all agree on, or how have you been able to include everybody in that shared mission?
Well, I think FCA has a cool, our playbook is called E3. It's engage, equip, and empower. So I think the include everybody is, man, we want, I don't care where you're at in your walk with Jesus, is, man, we want to have a chance to engage every coach, every athlete, and we tell our leadership teams that we have at each school, like, hey, let's invite students in, and I think that's step one, is to engage. once somebody starts that relationship with Jesus, it's equipping them with the Bible and the truth. And we've given out, I think, 1,500 Bibles, which
beautiful.
are just in the East Valley here.
Yeah.
In the last 3.5 years, so that's a great way to equip them. We have other Bible studies that we use, but trying to give those for people. But and then the third piece is the empower and having our leadership have the ability to go and now repeat that and engage students. So and then I think full grace. I want to be grace. God's shown me a ton of grace because I've been a goofball many times over. In every level. Yeah,
Charles Barkley.
Yeah, that's right. So I want to show people full grace, but I also want to be full truth. If I really care about you, I think you need to be and I think sometimes that's looked at as a continuum, and I don't think it is at all. I think Jesus was 100% truth. He never walked away from the truth, and it was 100% grace. And you talked about goofing up as a dad. Well, I've got 3 kids, and I got to coach one of my sons this year. And I've got a number of times where I can go up to kids and be like, "Hey, man, I apologize. That's not who I want to be." Yeah. But I've said I think my passion is what makes me run around from school to school. My passion for Jesus makes me okay at this job, run around, full out, and fly into the next school, loving on coach and athlete, and get to the next one. It's also what makes me not patient when someone else isn't running as fast as me, which you never read about Jesus running in the Bible. So some of those people, I've got some teammates that have helped me learn a ton. Same thing in coaching, my passion's what makes me really good. And my passion's what makes me a knucklehead at times. So.
I can't remember where it says, bridle your passions.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think that the interesting part, the interesting thing about a bridle, is not necessarily just to hold the horse back, but it's to guide it where it needs to go. And I think that passion is a very important thing. But if left unchecked, sometimes that's when we can maybe get in our own ways,
I think that's one of the coolest things about our job is to get to go around and kind of just remind coaches, like, "Hey, coach, you're doing this," and when I first started, I became an official coach and got fired 3.5 years ago. So I think that then I was official, and then this job opened up, and my wife kind of said, "Hey, would you, what would you rather do? Would you go be coaching again, or would you go and take FCA?" And I said probably FCA, but we fundraise our salary and our operating expense and everything. So I don't know if I want to do that. And she said, "Let's not limit God, let's roll." So,
I love
but
that.
I think going and getting to guide coaches and remind them. I love what you said. Steer them back. It's really easy throughout a 3, 4, 5 month season to start to veer off a step. And man, it's just a blast. There's so many unbelievable, just stud coaches in the East Valley, in all of Arizona that we get to work with. But the first year I did this, I didn't coach that year. And I was really good because I knew how to coach. And I wasn't going to practices, so I wasn't jacking it up. Yeah. But now I'm back out coaching again, and I can know exactly how to do it and get off my path really quick. But I love sitting with people that are passionate about sports and have a desire to learn in their faith walk and a relationship with Jesus Christ. So
I love that. Thank you. For that. I think that, again, just echoing what I was saying before, I don't think I can say it enough. Is I love what you are doing, just because I think that it's so needed. It's like you can do you can try to get one person at a time, and I think that ultimately that's what we need to focus on is the one, right? Christ went after the one in the 99. Mm-hmm. We're left behind, kind of not necessarily left behind, but the one is the one that he focused on primarily. But you never know what that one will turn into. Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful principle. So you had mentioned something, and then I think that's a good segue into how we can help.
Sure.
all of this you said is via fundraising.
Yep.
It's free for the schools because you're able to have funds. So for all of our viewers and our listeners, how can we contribute? Who can we send your way? What can we all do to help further the cause?
Well, our team is funded through monthly partners. We would love to speak with you and share more what that looks like. So we look for the next donor. We look for the next ministry opportunity. If you have a son or a daughter, or if you're a coach and you'd like to hear more about what we've done, and man, if we can get a Bible in your hand, we've got a coach's Bible of 365 coaches devotions written by coaches for coaches.
Awesome.
We have athlete Bibles that are the same thing. So I think we're looking for the next person to partner with us. We're looking for the next ministry opportunity, whether that's the character, whether it's a school. We're in club sports now. And then we also have a board. We have a volunteer board that serves in the East Valley, led by incredible men and women, businessmen and women that kind of help us advance in those three areas. So if we can put my number or my email on there, man, I'd love to hear from anybody that would love to be involved more in any one of those areas.
Okay,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll make sure that we will have Jeremy's email and phone number to be able to contact you. Any sort of, we'll make sure we tag you on all the social media
Awesome.
that you're on as well, so that everybody can continue to see what you're doing and be a part of this. And I think that a lot of times most people want to help in some way, but we just don't necessarily know where to go.
Yeah, and I think if you want to help, you want to partner, you want to hear more, I love talking about what we're doing. I love what God's doing through us. Love that we got a chance to ride with this, and I just love passionate people that are fired up. When we talk about business networking, it's people passionate about every one of their businesses from the wide range, and that's one of the coolest things of being in that room is everybody's fired up for what they're doing,
100%.
and I am too.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to you if you have any desire to kind of partner with us in any one of those areas.
Okay, awesome. No, we'll make sure we put all that in there. Just as we're landing the plane here, kind of coming to the end of our time, one of my favorite segments that we have is the Positivity Prize Fighter segment.
Okay.
Really, positivity is a huge part of my life. Always finding the silver lining, being optimistic, that kind of a thing. But in my mind, positivity is not all sunshine and rainbows and being happy all the time. It's just unrealistic. But positivity in my mind is that when life hits you in the face and knocks you down, are you going to get back up and keep fighting because you believe that it will get better, that you will get through it? That's positivity in my mind. So at this section, I want to ask, is there a time in your life that you can think of that was one of your Positivity Prize Fighter moments, when it felt like it very easily could have laid you out, but you got back up and you kept going?
Yeah, I mean, I think FCA's done the Jesus One shirts.
Yeah, I love that. It's great.
I think that goes back to James 1:2 is my favorite verse, because I think sometimes faith is painted as everything's going to be great, and that's not even close to what the Bible says. God promises it's going to be tough at times, Yeah. So, I think I go back to, I don't know, prize fighter moments, but I got a chance to get fired, and my mom died in 11 months.
Oh, my gosh.
So
that was a 1-2 punch, man.
It was, and but had I not had the truth, like, hey, God's going to grow you through the tough times. It's out of Jesus 1 is out of John 16:33. It says, "You will suffer in this world," and that was a tough time for our family. We left college football to try to be a better husband and have a little more time as a dad, and then within 11 months we get fired from it. And then Mom's moving to Arizona. We're a Minnesota crew, and Mom's moving down, and they were driving to the airport when they busted a U-ey and had to head back to the doctor, and she had passed on within 25 days.
Wow, that's quick.
But the rest of that verse is I've conquered the world. Jesus won. So I think when you talk about that prize fighter moment, if you're really following this thing, you're gonna go through valleys. We're in a good spot right now, but the valley's coming. And if you really believe in that, man, there's a lot of peace when you talk about that silver lining. This shirt's the reminder. If you're following Christ, it is the reminder. If you're not following Christ, that's my email. I would love to talk to you. So, but I think that is there a better prize fighter moment? Last thing on that, but I think, you know, my son was probably 13 at the time and in a leadership meeting with some of his buddies, and he goes, "How do we pray for grandma her whole time and she passes away?" And he's like, "I wondered that." And I'm like, "Man, what if we believe that there's a heaven? Is there a better healing?" And I'm like, "Jeez, this 13-year-old kid who does dumb stuff is actually got a brain in there that's a genius." So I thought that was so cool. His heart is, we've always said he's got a giant heart, but man, he figured it out more than how many adults have ever figured it out. So I think that's a prize fighter moment for me is where we grew in our family, and what I love about this message is a great reminder when things get rough, just to look down and be reminded, like, hey, it's already done. It's gonna struggle, but he died for us, and it's over.
You can
won.
Get through it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's already won.
Different than the happy. Like, I like what you said. It's not always gonna be happy, but there is a joy, and that's a complete difference.
Yeah, being able to, to begin with that end in mind too. When you're going through that valley of, this is just a valley. Yeah. I know where I'm about to go. What I'm going through right now is momentary. I know what's up there, and that's where I'm headed.
And I think that's why there's an urgency with me when I talk about the next ministry, when I talk about the next donor, next partner financially, when I talk about the next board member. There's an urgency because a lot of our athletes that we serve in this area, and many of our coaches don't know that. Like, it's you know, some of the other side of it, depression and some of the anxiety and worse, those numbers are scary. And that's why I'm passionate about sharing, because we need to get out there. Those kids, there's a lot of people that are hurting, and I want to share that hope, that joy, different than the happiness that comes with being a Christ follower. So.
No, beautiful. No, thank you, Jeremy. Seriously, really, really have just loved having you on, and really appreciate all your insights and it's very clear to see the passion that you have. You know, thank you so much. And to all of you Divide Bridgers out there, thank you again for joining us. I hope you guys have loved having Jeremy on. If you guys have gained value from this, please leave a like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Leave a comment below with something that has been beneficial to you, either your experience with Christ or your experience getting through those hard times and what it has been that has helped you through that. Trust me, the valley that you feel that you're in, you can get out of it. I promise that you can. I love you so much. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.